Uhuru, comrades. And I can't see who's all commenting, but I can see on the live. So I just want to make sure that when you get onto the live stream, you share and then hashtag in the comments, hashtag shared when you share it, okay? Make sure we put this, blast it all out, blast it all out, because it is our 5th webinar episode of the Justice for the 3 Drowned Black Girls Campaign Committee. And this has been a successful effort by the 3DBG committee to continuously put the case of the 3 drowned black girls out into the world, as well as raise resources for the Legal Defense Fund. So I just really want to appreciate everybody who is tuned in right now. We have a very dynamic show for you all. For those who don't know me, my name is Akilé Anai. I'm the chair of the 3 Drowned Black Girls Campaign, which is a campaign of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. So when you hear about this campaign a little bit more and you hear the politic and you're really interested in it and you want to fight for the cause, mpdom.org is where you want to go to get signed up. So I just want to put that out there. The 3DBG campaign was started after the brutal murders of Dominique Battle, Lanaya Miller, and Ashanti Butler by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department in 2016 on March 31st. So we hold these monthly webinars, again, to continue to push out this campaign, continue to push out the story of this case. It needs to be an international case because what happened to Dominique, Lanaya, and Ashanti easily happens to Africans on a daily basis under this social system that we know as colonialism, imperialism, and parasitic capitalism. So we have to continuously put it out and fight for it. And while we fight for the 3DBG campaign, in turn, we are fighting for all African children. So you can, have that on your brain as well. Also, again, we're raising resources for the Legal Defense Fund of the campaign because to wage this, not only on the political front in the streets, but also in the courts, it is not a cheap thing. So we're calling on people to support this campaign and raise resources. So throughout this live, you can visit Justice number 4, DominiqueBattle.com and make a contribution today. We have a goal tonight to raise $500, so you can be thinking about how much you want to give throughout the entire program. So I'm here, this topic today for the 3DBG webinar is around African Martyrs Day, specifically titled Long Live the African Martyr. And I am really excited because we have a very special guest, a member of the African People's Socialist Party, but not just a member, the Secretary General of the African People's Socialist Party, Comrade Gazi Kodzo. He will be on with us. To the excitement of the live audience. So very excited, and we're going to get right into it. So African Martyrs Day, what is that? What does it mean? I'm going to read actually this excerpt from Burning Spear newspaper that talks about where African Martyrs Day comes from. At the first Congress of the African People's Socialist Party, held in Oakland, California in September of 1981, a resolution was passed that marked the significance of Malcolm X in the struggle for the liberation of our people. We are reprinting that resolution here in the Burning Spear to commemorate the death of Malcolm X and the many other Africans who have become martyrs in the struggle for our liberation. If you don't know, Malcolm X was murdered on February 21st, assassinated on February 21st. Since then, February 21st has been known as African Martyrs Day, period, but we use the entire month to talk about African martyrs in our struggle for freedom. The struggle of African people to liberate our national homeland, Africa, to resist oppression and exploitation, and to overthrow the system of imperialism and advance the cause of world socialism has seen hundreds and thousands of our people make the ultimate heroic sacrifice, the sacrifice of life itself. The history of our resistance has been written in blood and flames. It has been punctuated by the courageous examples of such martyrs as Nat Turner, Stephen Biko, Patrice Lumumba, Walter Rodney, Fred Hampton, Mark Clark, Emile Cabral, Lawrence Mann, who was the co-founder of the African People's Socialist Party. Historically, the oppressors of African people have attempted to turn history upside down and present the heroic examples of our freedom fighters as evidence of the futility, the hopelessness of our cause for political independence, African liberation, and world socialism. In many instances, our oppressors have succeeded in demoralizing great numbers of our people by using the examples of brutally murdered African freedom fighters to prove the invincibility of imperialism and the permanence of African oppression and exploitation. The African People's Socialist Party rejects and denounces this reactionary view of the bourgeoisie and calls on all African revolutionaries of all countries to proclaim February 21st, the anniversary of the 1965 imperialist assassination of Malcolm X, as the Day of the African Martyr. The African People's Socialist Party calls on all African revolutionaries of all countries to take command of the history of our people's struggle for political independence, African liberation, and socialism by taking command of the definition that history and resistance. The African People's Socialist Party calls on all African revolutionaries of all countries to raise high, in a revolutionary manner, the heroic memory of all our fallen martyrs, of all those in every city, village, community, and country where they fell as evidence of the determination of our people to fight every battle on every front until liberty has been won. So, we talk about Malcolm X, and that has, that was the assassination of Malcolm X is the day of his assassination was the day that the party took to institute African Martyrs Day for our entire party, but for the entire planet. White power imperialism creates its own holidays, and you celebrate those holidays. And we know those holidays to be just a front for parasitic capitalism and fills the pockets of white power. And a holiday for the African nation should be African Martyrs Day. It is African Martyrs Day because we are celebrating and upholding those who have fought the brave fight and who did not fear death, which imperialism uses as a weapon against African people, as a threat looming above our heads, that if we dare fight for our freedom, that death is impending. And we are not afraid of death, and our African martyrs were not afraid of death, and they paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom, so we must uphold them. But one thing is important to know too, that every African murdered under colonialism is an African martyr. So we are going to talk more about that, and I don't want to give too much up because I want to be able to bring up our comrade, Secretary General of the African People's Socialist Party, Gazi Kodzo, to lay out and redefining the African martyr for our nation. So Uhuru, everybody give a round of applause to Comrade Gazi Kodzo. Uhuru. Just fixing his hair 1 second. Uhuru, Comrade Secretary General. Uhuru. So first I want to express my appreciation for you participating on this live stream on the 5th webinar episode of the 3DBG campaign. It is an honor to have you on here.
Thank you, Akile. Director Akile, thank you for having me, and just want to thank you on behalf of the nation for forwarding and leading this amazing and important campaign that you do so well.
Uhuru. All right, so Secretary General Gazi Kodzo, if you can please expound on, African Martyrs Day, what an African martyr is, and talk about the redefining of the African martyr as those who have been, killed under all instances of colonialism, not just political assassination.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Akile. Well, like you put forward about, laying out African Socialist Party, creating Martyrs Day, and what it means to African people, and just how you said how the bourgeois state, tries to prove that its invincibility to oppressed and colonized people through murdering our vanguards and anyone that stands up in defiance against it, or that sparks, motivation in the people to fight for their freedom and to become a self-governing people. That, what the bourgeois state does is try to capture these people, torture these people, and murder, our leaders, and do it right there, slap dab in your face, like how they did Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Patrice Lumumba and, Huey P. Newton and Fred Hampton and Marcus Garvey. I will keep saying Marcus Garvey. I don't believe that he just died natural causes when he went to Europe. But and Thomas Sankara, and they do these things, like Chairman once said, the U.S. Military, the government, the CIA, and, UN and all these people, they can kill you and make it look like a natural cause. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not that hard. Mm-hmm. I mean, I watch Snapped a lot, mm-hmm. and, these random white women who are, house moms be killing their husbands and nobody be knowing until years later because they were with I saw this one woman, she killed her husband And then years later, she got away with it, looked natural, and she was like a house mom. And then years later, she married this new man, and the new man is kind of like iffy, like what's going on? Because he's seeing different things and hearing different things. And, she just, gets drunk one day and says it, and he reports her to the police, and then they have to look up and dig up the files and stuff like that. But I'm just saying that to say, if this white house mom can kill her husband and make it look like a natural thing or whatever, you better believe that the CIA and the FBI and all these government institutions can kill you and make it look natural. I mean, obviously, who's going to tell them that it wasn't natural? Because the people that do the biopsy is the state. The people that reported the newspaper are the state. So they don't really even have to do much. You know what I mean? And so that I'm saying that to say, like how Chairman puts out that they do it for that. They shoot them, like that. They take their lives out like that and let you know that they played a hand in it or did it themselves in purpose, because they want to push that into the Black community. I mean, it's even in one of the goals in counterinsurgency is to make sure that every, African that fights back against the system, every leader that can spark, the imagination of the people to uprise, that they be murdered in that way, so that future generations, like you said, know that if they rise up, that they will seek the same fate. And it's just great that the African Socialist Party, which is the revolutionary party that made it through the counterinsurgency of the 1960s and assassination attempts, all kinds of programs of counterinsurgency against this movement that has survived, is now telling the entire African nation that to survive this nightmare that they're trying to pull you in of you can never win, we can never do it, and they just got all the weapons, they're invincible, is to take us out of that, bourgeois lie and propaganda machine and take us out of that into the fact and say, you know what, they won't get us if we're more organized than them, and if we stay principled, and if we, keep ourselves out the center, and if we follow democratic steps, we do all these things, as an organization and follow these principles and, build upon it, then we won't be the only ones worried about, yeah. But anyways, just saying all that to say that deepening, like you said, the importance of what a martyr is and what Martyrs' Day means. And it's even the creation of Martyrs' Day was redefining what a martyr is. Because what a martyr was supposed to be was somebody that was supposed to put fear in the masses of the people to rise up. And what the African People's Socialist Party did was turn a martyr into someone that you want to grow up and become like. You don't want to become a martyr, but you want to live like who that martyr was. You want to live their life and not define their life by their death. Define their life by what the work that they did while they were here and alive and working for the people. And, something that Chairman Omali Yeshitela put out recently when we had a meeting, his summation around what he wanted the party and the masses of the people and different organizations to do is to be able to see that it's not just these charismatic and powerful and profound leaders that are on top of these stages that are martyrs, but it's also the masses of people that are living these colonized and oppressed lives, because your life is still being taken away by, imperialism, and to hold them up and to give the African working class the ability to have a, pride in ourselves and to rise us out of this muck. Because a lot of the times the way that our family members die, it's almost like when people ask you, you don't even want to say what it was because you're ashamed of how they died, because this colonial narrative will tell you that, your uncle or whoever deserved to die the way that they died rather than the state killed them. Like, for instance, my uncle, he went to prison for, 8 years or 11 years or so. I don't even know, because when I was younger, the first time I met him was when he came out. And so when he came out, his name was, he went by, if you don't know, ask Uncle Mo. He'd always say that. That was the funniest thing. And he was my Uncle Mo. But coming out of prison, he was unable to get a job. He was dealing with all this like trauma and depression that he faced. I don't know what he faced in there, but he had a lot of like, you know, traumas that were put on him through through being in that, you know, slavery, basically, and in those camps. And coming out of that, he, you know, committed suicide because, you know, he couldn't take it anymore. And now with my understanding, my political understanding, I know that my uncle did not, you know, commit suicide. He was murdered by U.S. imperialism. Yeah. And so when people ask me what happened to my uncle, I can say it with pride and say, you know, not with pride, but with, you know, to point conviction and to point the finger at who the finger needs to be pointed at. You know, not to point it at him or not to point it at the family. Like, what were y'all doing? You know, what about, why didn't he do this? Why did he do that? Like, no, why did the state put my uncle, why did this U.S. imperialist state have the ability to put my uncle in prison and put him through all these torturous things, which a lot of African people who are pushed into prison, you know, do succumb to when they come out, is suicide and drug abuse and all of these kinds of things. And you pointed out, and like you said, now I have a conviction with it, you know, and I can use that as a way to recruit and open up the minds of Africans all around, and to say that my uncle is a martyr, you know, and for people who have lost, you know, their friends and family through drugs and alcohol can say, you know, it wasn't based on, oh, they were, you know, like how they want us to frame it, that they were weak or something was wrong with them, or they just couldn't play the game and all this other nonsense. It's like, no, the game is playing us, and it's called white power, and this is their responsibility. They did this. Even family members that have died from heart disease and all these kinds of things, you know, why are African men dying of heart disease at such a high rate and not white men? It's because African men are colonized, you know, and are put through such strenuous life existences, and if that's a word, and it is today. And the food that they push into our communities, these corner stores, these petty merchants, Walmart, all these people, all these things that they put into our foods and our systems and stuff like that. And to point it right there, and even, you know, me being, you know, GSNA, gender, sexuality, non-conforming African, you know, we all, gender, sexuality, non-conforming Africans, all know people who have died from AIDS and HIV. And, you know, that used to be a thing that you would keep it. You wouldn't say anything, you know. You wouldn't say that they got sick or they got the bug or they got burned, you know. You want them to rest in peace. You don't want nobody to slander them. So, you know, when people say, you know, I couldn't tell people why my best friend passed or how he passed. It was just like, oh, you know, he got sick or bronchitis or something. You make something up, you know. And now I can say that he was attacked by U.S. imperialism through, you know, chemical warfare. The same way they did the Vietnamese, the same way they, you know, put Agent Orange and what is it that they, the napalm all over the, you know, Vietnamese people. These are the same people that put Ebola into African people, put HIV and AIDS into African people. And now I can say and talk about my friends as a conviction and say that my friend died, was an African martyr. And, you know, some people will say, well, Ghazi African martyrs it has to be people that are fighting against this system and are leading these huge campaigns and organizations. And I just love how Chandra just sums it up to say that, you know, just existing as an African in this system, you know, is an offense to U.S. imperialism. And we face, you know, an onslaught of different forms of violence because of that. And we can now say they are martyrs, and we understand that these are lives that U.S. imperialism is taking. And then when you start to think of it like that, when you start to think, wow, they took my uncle, they took my best friend, you know, they are taking, you know, our friends and our family, they're taking this person, they're taking this person, they're taking all these people, then you'd be like, okay, well, this gotta stop. But when you think all these ways of African people are dying and you're not connecting it to the main contradiction, then you have to overturn it to save the lives of the African nation. Right.
So can you, okay, because I want you to kind of go into that a little bit more about the different symptoms of colonialism and, you know, the more prominent ones really, and, you know, tie that back into, you know, how that is murder by colonialism. And I also, because you mentioned Vietnam, and you also talked about how, again, you know, imperialism will use death as a weapon against African people. And, you know, for anybody who has a concern that well, we don't have their guns and, you know, we don't have their military strategy in XYZ. Can you, you know, talk about a little bit about Vietnam and use that as the example of, you know.
Oh, I love talking about Vietnam. But yeah, you know, just like people say, you know, we don't have the guns and all this other kind of stuff. You know, Huey P. Newton said that it's not technology that wins wars, it's the people. You know, and revolution is a war of the people. It is the people uniting to this political goal to overthrow imperialism. And, you know, the people have nothing to lose. Well, we have nothing to lose. We are fighting for our lives and for freedom. And the imperialists, the capitalists have everything to lose. You know, they have to protect and safeguard their police stations and protect and safeguard their city hall and protect and safeguard their, you know, their banks and all the institutions and their buildings and all this kind of stuff. The revolutionaries ain't got nothing to protect. You know, we can hit, run, hit and run. And just like in Vietnam, you know, they did what imperialists call guerrilla warfare, but it's just revolution, is when the masses of the people rise up. But, you know, when the US went into Vietnam and they went, you know, into these different cities and these rural areas and stuff like that, at daytime, all the Vietnamese people were so nice to them. And, you know, they're like, oh, they're so nice. But when that sun set, these people that were shining your shoes, that were serving you dinner that you thought was, serving you lunch and breakfast that you thought was so nice, they now are coming at you behind, you know, doing all these things. They slip something in your back pocket and it's just pandemonium. You don't know what to do. And then the next morning you wake up and you don't know. Now you're shaking because you're like, okay, this person that's delivering you your mail, like, you're revolutionary. It's like you don't even know because this is the war of the people. But you as an imperialist are very clearly seen as an imperialist. Like you gotta wear your uniform, you gotta have your big guns, you gotta have all your helmets and your badges and all these kinds of things. So people that say, you know, well, we don't have the guns and stuff like that. Well, one, I hear people say about, well, first, like revolution is not about having the guns and stuff like that. It is winning the masses of the people to a political understanding that we must be free by any means necessary. But it's funny that these same people that say, well, black people don't have enough guns are the same black people who talk about, but we got to stop this black on black violence and all these gun shootings and all these, you know, drive-bys. And have you seen Chicago lately? And it's like, okay, do we have guns or do we not have guns? Because I'm confused. Oh, we have a question.
Oh, it's a comment from Carmen Malia. Every time a black person dies, it's because of colonialism.
Yes. Yes. So that's to answer that question. And we're not trying to fight, you know, we're not here to say, you know, oh, African people pick up your weapons and all that kind of stuff. What we're saying is, you know, pick up right now. This is where we're at where it comes to revolution is we have to win the masses to an understanding. And we have to build organizations that are fighting against the state violence against our people and against our children. And this campaign, Justice for the 3 John Black Girls, is consistently fighting for justice for not just these 3 girls, but for all African children that are murdered by the police, like, you know, Comrade Kunde Mwambita says. So, you know, right now what we're asking African people and people in solidarity to do is to donate $5, $10 to this organization that is led by the African poor working class. You know, these 3 girls are, you know, in Akile's age bracket, were raised in Akile's town. You know, Akile is one of these girls. And this campaign speaks very deeply of this whole thing of taking death as a weapon out of the hands of the imperialists, because murdering these 3 girls gave birth to Akile Anai and the Justice for the 3 John Black Girls campaign. It gave birth to, you know, Comrade Tanya. It gave birth to these Africans that are forwarding this movement. It gave birth to, you know, KC and to Dexter and to this campaign that is moving now forward. So by taking these African girls, what you have done is create this force of nature, in this organized force of nature that is moving forward and fighting for justice for these 3 girls and winning people to an understanding that what we need is Black community control of the police. What we need is reparations to these mothers and these family members, because everybody is not ready for, you know, what they think revolution is or something like that. But we are saying at this moment when they are murdering our children, we have to be ready to financially, support and to pay reparations to organizations that are led by the African poor working class that are getting the brunt, the onslaught of imperialism and colonialism and the state violence, and putting our resources in that to have to show and to push forward demands that speak of the interest of not just these girls, but the interest of the entire African nation. Because you have campaigns that their demands are just fit for, that specific instance. Like, it's just weird.
The school shooting, the Me Too hashtag, and the school shooting is never again. Like these moments, basically, in time that happen. Oh, you can go ahead and elaborate on that.
No, but for instance, I don't want to say any names because I know everybody out here fighting for, justice in the best way possible. But when you have a campaign that is there, let's say a police came in and they busted open a door and then shot and murdered someone. So now there's a campaign and their demand is that the police knock first. And then they go and then they have their marches and everything, and they finally, the mayor signs it in. Police will knock 3 times, and if you don't answer in 3 minutes, then they'll knock down the door and shoot you and kill you. And it's like, like that was the fight. That was the demand. That was the thing that we were, and then they defined what made us angry. And it's like, but what is them knocking 3 times going to stop? And, or badge cams. We're going to fight for badge, people just fighting for these badge cams, and then you get the badge cams, and now you just have a bird's eye view of the murder, and you're still not getting justice. So I just love justice for the 3 young Black girls, because these demands are something that will, spark and overturn a lot of the violence that we're seeing in our community put forth by the police. And to say that these girls are martyrs, and to be able to say that, Dominique Battle, Anai Millett, Ashanti Butler are martyrs, and to hold these sisters up, and to say Mike Brown and Sandra Bland and Rekia Boyd and, Freddie Gray and all these Africans murdered by the police is, are martyrs. All these Africans, when we have, there's a comrade that we have in Australia, and his friend, went to a party in another, it's funny, Sherman says African people are connected all over the world, and we act like each other, talk like each other, we just don't know it, and it's true. And in Australia, there's a certain part of, just like in America, the young brothers, and they're not supposed to go to a certain part of the town in Australia. He went to that certain part of town because he wanted to go to a party. He went to the party, long story short, he got, the kids, the other young brothers met him, they beat him up, they jumped him, they killed him. And then, they put the body away, and now the mother's crying, and now one sector of the African working class is trying to murder them, and then you have the police involved, and it's just like, wow, like this is colonialism, and nobody is aiming at the colonizer, and seeing that even this horizontal violence is white power, is colonialism. That child is a martyr, and if those children that did that to that young brother get murdered or pushed to prison, they are murdered by the state, they're martyrs too, because you put both of these victims into this situation where they have to fight for these resources because they see their mama suffering and da-da-da. So now you have this drug economy that white power created, and so you have these young brothers fighting over who can sell what over what block and da-da-da-da, and you did this, and now they fighting and killing each other, but you're not seeing the puppeteer pulling all the strings. And now we can say these are martyrs, and that's the power of redefining martyrs.
And, taking it out of the hands of white power. And also, well, it's not also, because the petty bourgeoisie is white power. And wanted to talk about, just how the African working class is this demoralized sector of the African nation. It's the most spat on, despised sector of the human population, period, but especially within the African nation. And I remember, and I don't remember if you remember, but when this campaign first started, when these girls were first murdered, and PETUM took on this case, but there was also a contending organization, which was an obvious operative of the Democratic Party here. And they were, with the say her name thing. And they had this way to portray these girls in this cartoon, angelic kind of way. And that's all, but the petty bourgeoisie gets to define, who gets to be fought for, on what terms, they have to have wanted to go to school, they have to have wanted all these dreams and aspirations, and they can't have any scratches on their record or anything, or that makes it non-viable. Like, you can't fight for them because they have this extensive record, because that's the first thing white power will do to justify them being killed, like they did Dominique Benign and Shanti. The first thing they did was put out a mugshot and their rap sheet and whatever to justify why they were dead. And the petty bourgeoisie uses that same information of the bourgeoisie to push out, well, we can't fight for these people over here. We can't fight for the African working class. We can't fight for Pookie and Ray Ray.
Unless they were going to get a scholarship.
Right. Yes. Unless they're going to get a scholarship. He had a, bright future ahead of him. And, the community is saying all these good things about him. He has all the teachers giving him recommendation letters. And we're saying that the African working class, we have to raise up the African working class and all those who have been killed as a result of the social system. The fact that there is an African working class is as a result of the fact that white power stole everything from Africa and, has built its life and its very breath on that pedestal. So, again, all the poor working class Africans who the bourgeoisie and the petty bourgeoisie condemns, the ones with their pants sagging, hats backward, rapping Kodak Black lyrics, with their middle fingers up in pictures, are the same Africans that are on the front lines in Ferguson, Missouri, when Mike Brown was murdered, were right here on the front lines in 1996 when Tyrone Lewis was murdered, were the ones on the front lines when these girls were murdered, and, have always been the one to take on the struggle, in the event of, a police murder or, an attack, an assault on our community, period. And, but these are the Africans that we are lifting up, the voices and the lives that the white power attempts to sweep under the rug, because the police attempt, and just the state, period, kills these Africans and, just attempts to pretend like it never even happened. The names aren't memorable anymore because they're the African working class. Nobody's checking on Africans a part of the class. Nobody's checking on them. So they can just, pretend like it absolutely never happened. And then who is going to remember them? Who is going to tell their stories in the future? But I love what you said, that, this particular instance, they made a grave mistake in thinking that there wasn't a nation of people, a community of people who were completely outraged by what happened to these girls. They made a grave mistake. They murdered these girls in St. Petersburg, where the headquarters of the African People's Socialist Party was, and where there's a history of African resistance in this city. So when they took these girls, they took away 3 members of the African nation. And that was very clear, and that's what gave this campaign momentum, going forward, and what gives it momentum today, and why people around the world can unite with the struggle and the demands of the 3 John Black Girls campaign. And I think another part of what makes these Africans martyrs is the fact that, even though they weren't necessarily engaged in, they weren't a part of the revolution, they weren't members of the African People's Socialist Party, they weren't leaders of any organizations or whatever, but colonialism took that ability away from them.
Yeah.
Who knows what would have happened in the future. These girls were, like you said, right here in this city, the city of African resistance and the headquarters of the African Socialist Party. These girls were potential frontliners of the revolution, and colonialism took that away from them. Colonialism took that away from all the Africans murdered by horizontal violence, all the Africans who die with drug overdose and alcohol poisoning, all those Africans who die of high blood pressure and all the diseases that have been imposed upon our community. Those are all African revolutionaries. And they do it when they take our brothers and sisters and they force them into prisons, and they attempt to take our future revolutionaries then. And, but again, they made a mistake. As a result, we have Kunde Mwamvita, who is one of, the best shining examples, one of the best daughters of Africa, who sets the example for what it means to, fight for African children for real. Because, you have, unfortunately, those who get paid off by the Democratic Party. And, you know, we don't see them anymore until they're coming out to campaign for Hillary Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
And Kunde Mwavita took the stance and showed what it actually meant to fight for African children by joining this organization. So, you know, I really am appreciative of the party taking back African martyrs, you know, taking back martyr, the word period, taking it back and, you know, bringing it one step closer to our struggle and defining it for the people. And as something that we should not fear, but as something that these are people that we can hold up high regards and look at them as this is what we are fighting for. When we look at Dominique, Lanai, and Ashanti, we look at this is why I'm fighting still. I'm fighting because this cannot happen to African children anymore. I look at Mike Brown, this cannot happen to African 18-year-old boys anymore. This cannot happen like this anymore. And when we look at our, you know, leaders in the struggle who paved the way to where we are today, we look and say, that's how I want to fight. That's how I want to fight to ensure the future of African children. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I just really appreciate, you know, laying that out for us. And before I dismiss you, I do want to ask, you know, just what, you know, who is a revolutionary, you know, who's unfortunately no longer with us, African martyr, you know, who has really inspired you in this struggle for freedom?
That's a good question. I know you asked me before, and I was thinking about it, and I just couldn't think. There's so many that I could say, like, and for all, you know, different reasons. You know, like Patrice Lumumba, and you know, of course, Thomas Sankara and Fred Hampton, and Huey P. Newton, and you know, so many that have passed. You know, recently hearing about Mufundi, mm-hmm. and Mufundi was a African revolutionary who led a extremely successful African Liberation Day event and march in Washington, D.C. And because of that, they pushed him into prison, mm-hmm. and he worked with the African People's Socialist Party. They, you know, gave him these trumped up charges, mm-hmm. a fake rape charge. It was like some charge of like saying he stole like $34, mm-hmm. something like that, and then they stuffed him into prison. Yeah, and how he organized even behind prison walls, organized African National Prison Organization behind prison walls. You know, he got the Burning Spear newspaper. He was giving political education to the brothers behind prison walls, and just to know the amount of torture that they did on that brother, you know, beating him up, putting him in situations and environments that he couldn't sleep in, pushing him into the hole constantly, all these things, you know, all the way till he was an old man, you know, horrific situation, but was still able to organize and still be a leader even behind prison walls. And how he, you know, just died because they refused to give him his medication. Mm-hmm. And when he was sick, they would only take him to the infirmary or the clinic, mm-hmm. or whatever. Mm-hmm. They would only take him there on weekends because they knew on weekends there was no doctors. And if there was no doctors, he couldn't get anything prescribed or anything like that. So they took him on the weekends just to show that we're trying to get him some help. And they let him die. And, you know, but just and how Chairman wrote something around him and just said, you know, it's not how the martyr dies what defines them. Mm-hmm. It's their life that defines mm-hmm. them and defines us as a nation. And to know that brother was behind, you know, prison walls and 31 years. For 31 years, and faced extreme levels of torture mm-hmm. and violence and, mm-hmm. you know, and all these things against him. And he still was an active organizer and revolutionary for his people. Mm-hmm. It leaves a stamp on all of us to rise up and to make sure that we don't have any excuse of why we can't make it through something or why we can't get certain things done. You know, people will be in my inbox saying, oh, Ghazi, you know, you're so inspirational, you did this, and that. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm doing that. And I'm not behind prison walls. I'm not getting tortured. You know, they're not taking my phone. They would take, you know, his phone privileges were gone for a long time. What he would do was he would politically win another African brother that's behind there who wants to talk to their family all the time. You know, you want to be connected, but he would win them politically to understand this phone call is the phone call you need to make because I've got to get this through, these lines through to make sure that this organization continues to move. And would win that. Now, I know how hard of a struggle it is just to get people to come out and, you know, sell the spear with you or pass out flyers or stuff like that. But this brother politically won multiple people to say, I'm not going to talk to my mama, you know, for months. I'm not going to talk who I love and miss, my aunt, my sisters, my children. I'm going to call the number this man is telling me to call so I can move forward the revolution and liberation for African people. That's amazing and profound. And that just, you know, sparked something in me and a lot of my comrades, and I read his political education. So to answer the question, it's so many. And because you can find these kinds of stories to know, you know, who we are. Because who we are is not, Michelle Obama's writing some book called Becoming. And it's supposed to be for women of color and oppressed white women, wherever that is, on the art and the way to become your dream or some BS like that.
Become your dream.
Yeah, and it's like, that's not what I want to become. And that's not what, you know, the African working class want to become. We want to become free. And this is who we are. These people who we are. It's not the people that the white nation puts up, you know, the black, you know, sellout Negroes for us to be. It's these African martyrs. So each and every one of them are my favorite for different reasons, same reasons, but all extremely profound reasons that dictate the way that I live my life. And to know that my life is not mine, my body's not mine, my word's not mine, it's the nation's, it's theirs. You know, people say all the time, well, they died for us to be here. These people really died for us to be able to be here. And African people have worked tirelessly, you know, to even this Uhuru house that we are in. You know, I say all the time, I say, you know, we built this Uhuru house on blood, sweat, and tears. And people are like, Negro, you just came like 3 years ago. But I say this because I have to understand to embody and to protect it like that, to uphold it like that, to respect it like that, to make sure other people respect it like that. This is our blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes. That's our history. And, you know, the quicker you realize that, the quicker you own it and want to uphold it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my answer. What about you?
Yes. So kind of same thing, that there are too many to name in terms of just who have all shaped my political development. And there were Africans I'd never even heard of, you know, prior to joining the African Socialist Party, because the counterinsurgency was successful and pushing Africans out of political life. So all I had was colonial education, and they didn't teach me. They didn't even teach me about Marcus Garvey. Like, I didn't know about Marcus Garvey, but I didn't know about Patrice Lumumba, and didn't, you know much even about Malcolm X. Didn't know about Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer became one of my, you know, great inspirations while I was running for office. But, you know, if we're talking about African martyrs and we're redefining African martyr and saying all Africans murdered under colonialism are an African martyr, I would have to say that some, you know, African martyr that really shaped my political development, and just every time I remember him, it, you know, just, it brings me back to why I'm here. It's almost like I know we don't really believe in this kind of mysticism kind of thing, but it just makes me feel like this is like my destiny, is Tyrone Lewis. And, you know, because, well, one, Tyrone Lewis was murdered 2 days after I was born. And, you know, my father actually skipped out on the hospital to be on the front lines to defend the Uhuru House, because, and that, you know, that was a part of the blood, sweat, and tears, you know, to not only was the Uhuru House built, but you had to maintain it because the state was always trying to attack it. So African working class, the African working class was out on 1996, you know, to defend this building after the police, the city government did everything they could to try to wipe it out, tried to kill the chairman and tried to kill other leaders of this movement. And I just think that's just such a profound testament to the history of the party, and just, you know, that it happened right here in the city that I was born. And, you know, it just, every time October 24th, you know, comes around, I just can never not take it personally, but it's just like, you know, it's really serious. So yeah, I would have to say that Tyrone Lewis has definitely been, and, you know, just an inspiration in my fight, because I see Tyron Lewis and then I see Dominique, Lanai, and Ashanti, and I go, I have to do this. I have to do this because this can't happen anymore. I see Kunde Mavita, who is just this light and, just this bold, courageous. I mean, there's so many words you can call Kunde, but one thing she is not short of is an inspiration. And I see, her, and then I look at the pictures of the girls, and I'm like, there's, this is why we do what we do, because colonialism has to go, parasitic capitalism, imperialism has to go, and the world, African children have to see a future, where they don't have to worry about this anymore, and African mothers, African fathers, and our people just don't have to live like this anymore. And so, that's for me. That was kind of long-winded, but yeah, that's for me. So, Uhuru, I'm gonna go ahead and check some comments real quick, see what we got on the live. Tanya says, "Long live Tyron Lewis." Yeah. Tanya is one of the comrades we mentioned, who, political development came in through the 3DBG campaign, and she was one of the beginning members on the committee, and really appreciated everything she did. And now she, is now the Burning Square distribution manager of the party, of the African Socialist Party. So just that development, man, it's crazy, but this is where it has gotten us. So y'all ask some questions, but I want to go ahead and go into, calling on everyone who's on the live right now. I've said it in the beginning, these webinars are to push out the case of the 3 John Black girls and to raise resources for the Legal Defense Fund. And we have a goal of $18,000, and we are just under 10,000 away from our goal. So we have about over 8,000 raised already. So we know that we can raise these resources. That's why we have a goal tonight of $500, just $500, comrades. So if you all collectivize this process, everybody on the live, contribute $5, $10. Say where you're going to donate today. So that's what I want to call on you all to do, because we recognize, one, we support this campaign. We support the campaign for justice that's waging these demands. We support reparations to the families. We support Black community control of the police and the immediate resignation and indictment of, the sheriff's deputies and the sheriff himself who were involved in murdering these girls and waging a huge slander campaign. We say we're in support of that. Then we have a responsibility to support this committee and donate resources today, because white power is not going to do it. Yeah. No lawyer is going to fall out of the sky, and do all this work for us. It's going to take the people. So we're saying donate to Justice number 4, DominiqueBattle.com right now. Go ahead and do it right now, or make a pledge right now. I want to see you in the pledge. I want to shout you out. So Justice number 4, DominiqueBattle.com. Who has the first donation for us? Last webinar, we did $31 for 31 days. So let's pick it up again. $31 for 31 days. Tanya says, I got 5 on it. Okay, yeah, I got it. I picked up one, comrade. Yeah. So Tanya has 5 on it. So y'all, let's match Tanya. Let's go $31 for 31 days. We have KC. I am donating $40 as a stand of reparations, because all white people's lives are built and sustained by an economic system that requires the murder. Going too fast. Requires the murder of African children and the suffering and loss of African parents and families. Not in my name. Uhuru, comrade Casey, so that's 40. Jackson Hollingsworth also has 5 on it. In reparations from me, white reparations to the families of Dominique, Lanai, and Ashanti, and to all African people. Uhuru, Marquita, Kiki, got $10. Uhuru, comrade, my chief copy editor of the Burning Spear. What's up? Uhuru, comrade. All right, y'all. So y'all make sure y'all go to Justice number 4, DominiqueBattle.com. Yeah. Say how much you're going to contribute today. We have Sam Day, who I believe is Who Solidarity Movement member in Boston, I believe. So Uhuru, comrade Sam Day, thank you. $10. We got Betty Soto with the 25. Betty Soto with 25.
I got 20.
Oh, Gazi got 20. All right, so Secretary General has 20 for us. Comrade Betty Soto is a fierce African teacher right here in St. Petersburg, Florida. She don't play, y'all. Don't cross Betty. Don't cross her. Okay. All right, so we got, all right, so really appreciate y'all contributions. Y'all don't forget Justice number 4, DominiqueBattle.com. let's see how much we can raise tonight. We have a goal of $500, and I know we can do it. All of us pulling our resources together, we can make this happen. Again, we just laid out this dynamic program about African Martyrs Day, and about just this horrible oppressive system against African people and how it has taken Africans out of the struggle, and it has attempted to make sure that a revolution can never rear its head ever again. There was one period of time in this country and all around the world where revolution was the main trend. And, the U.S. initiated a counterinsurgency program that was successful. It was successful. It, wiped out all of these leaders, forced them into prisons and assassinated them, where you see the assassinations of Fred Hampton, Huey P. Newton, you have Malcolm X prior to the forming of the Black Panther Party, all of these Africans who were killed before, before revolution could really take off. But now we are back and we are better, stronger. We have we took all the lessons from the past of our history of revolution and we have applied it and advanced it. Now we have a advanced theory of African internationalism created by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who fought back the counterinsurgency. Long live Comrade Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And, now we are putting revolution back on the agenda, making it the main trend. And, so we have to support that. Dia Kese says, can you speak to how the African students of Gibbs High School tried to uplift the 3 drowned Black girls as African martyrs, but were told they were promoting gang violence? And also the fact that the school had African students participate in a 17-minute vigil for the white students murdered, shot in the mass school shooting in Parkland, Florida. Also, Dia Kese says he has $5 on it, 5 on it too. All right, Comrade Dia Kese, Guru. So yeah, let's talk about that, because this, over what was it, 2 weeks ago, about almost teetering on, there was another mass school shooting. Surprise, surprise. We're under imperialism. So, that's what happens under imperialism. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, fortunately, imperialism is in crisis. But what happens is that it lashes out in all kinds of ways. It's extremely violent, and white people end up suffering as a result. So again, white people, there is a solution. You can, donate reparations today, or give reparations to Just for Number 4 DominiqueBattle.com. Support Black Community Control of the Police, Black self-determination, and ultimately the revolution of African people, because that's what's going to set all white people free, and school shootings won't happen anymore. But anyway, so when these murders took place, Dominique Lanai and Ashanti, we had, comrades of Impedum go onto the Gibbs High School campus, and we were having demonstrations and events and things like that. And those students wanted to promote the event. First of all, these girls attended the specific school that they were doing organizing work at. They were friends, cousins, family. People had close relationships with these girls. People knew these girls throughout the city. So they wanted to conduct outreach inside of the school to bring people to our events. And what ended up happening was the staff and administration of Gibbs High School were ripping posters down and, calling these kids into the office saying, that this information right here is promoting gang violence. Gang violence. Imagine that. Fighting for the lives of African children who were stolen by the police, fighting for justice for their peers, for their cousin, for their sister, for their classmate is gang violence. It's gang violence when African people are murdered by the state and we take a stand to say no more. That's gang violence. That sounds a lot like how the FBI labels Africans who fight for self-determination, independence, economic self-reliance. They call us Black identity extremists. They call us Black nationals, hate groups. They label us as domestic terrorists because we refuse to be under the boot of oppression any longer. That's what that sounds like for those kids in there. And oh God, get this troll out of here. Kenny Lee is a troll, so get him out. Anyway, so that happened in 2016 when we were trying to organize on that campus. Now fast forward to now, 17 white kids are gunned down by another white kid in a mass school shooting that continue, like it's a part of an unending series of mass shootings that happen under imperialism. And all of a sudden, a school that never paid attention to the lives of African children who were murdered, didn't do a moment, didn't even give these girls a moment of silence, not a moment of silence for girls who died in this city. And yes, 1 second, I'll bring you up to date, Ryan Brooks. So, who died in this city, but what the principal at Gibbs High School did this year is called all the students out, rounded them up. It was an obvious publicity stunt. He had the police out there, acting all buddy-buddy with the students, or a bunch of African students right there. It was an obvious, like publicity, like lip service kind of thing. And they gave 17 minutes for the 17 children, of the 17 white children that were killed. And that did not happen in the case of Dominique, Lanai, and Ashanti. Didn't no one tell them, nobody looked up the rap sheet of any of these white kids who, went to these schools to determine whether or not, maybe if they were shot, maybe it was probably better off because that kid, didn't do so well. He was always yelling at his mama. Actually, that white guy pulled out a gun on his uncle the other day. Wasn't no investigation of these white children's past or anything like that, and African children were expected to go out and mourn the loss of kids they didn't even know, but they couldn't do that in the case for these 3 girls. And so we say, one, the obvious hypocrisy, but that's how African people are treated. That's how African working class people are treated. You're not supposed to care about African children. You're not supposed to care about African people, period. You're not supposed to care because African, children, African people dying under colonialism is a societal norm. It's okay to happen. It's embedded within our minds. Like, yes, that happens all the time. And it has to happen because these kids are running around rampant. They're criminals and all kinds of stuff. Oh, shout out to James McGlinnis for donating $50. Uhuru James McGlinnis has been a continuous supporter of this campaign. Really appreciative of this person right here for always just being and providing lots and lots of information on the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department. You can't imagine how full of rot it is. And speaking of the Sheriff's Department and the Parkland school shooting, thank you for that question. Right. There's the sheriff deputy now who's coming under fire, who's even getting death threats from, parents because he was caught running away from the gunfire, which resulted in 17 kids and faculty members getting shot and killed. Yeah, I got that, James. Yeah. So that resulted in 17 white kids getting shot and killed. And this deputy ran away. Had the deputy confronted the killer and killed the killer, that couldn't have happened. Correct? Right? That's what we're saying. That's what parents are saying of the sheriff's deputy. He's coming under fire, and he's being criticized. He's up here trying to fight that title off. He is not a coward. They're calling him a coward. He said, "I'm not a coward." And you can see, but if it's logical, if it's logical to get angry with this deputy who ran away in the face of danger when his job at that moment really called on him to do his damn job, if we can be angry at that, then why is it then not the case why can't we be angry for sheriff's deputies who stood around, 17 of them? This is one resource officer. We're talking about 17 sheriff's deputies who stood around and watched the girls die. For 6 whole minutes. It took 4 minutes for those white kids to get shot up. It took 6 minutes for those girls to lose their last breath. 6 minutes, and those sheriff's deputies stood around and did absolutely nothing, and they were rewarded and regarded as heroes. They're regarded as heroes. They said they went in, they did everything they could to save those girls, and then video footage came out, said that was a lie. And then they had to backtrack and say, well, the water was really murky. It was dangerous. We couldn't go in. You had sellouts from this city come and put on wading boots to prove that point, that it was too dangerous to go and save those girls. But yet they can't be condemned. Bob Gaultieri didn't have a responsibility to train his sheriff's deputies. His sheriff's deputies didn't have a responsibility to go in and save those girls from the ponds that they pushed them in. So we don't condemn that because they're African children. This can happen to African children. It's normal for this to happen to African children. The state is doing what it's supposed to do. The state is doing what it's supposed to do when it kills African children. So of course, nobody's being condemned, but they can be condemned in the case of white children when a sheriff's deputy acts as a coward and runs away and doesn't protect white kids. Then we can condemn him. Then he can lose his job. Then he can be criticized. No, this is why we have to do it. We have to wage this campaign ourselves, and we are going to do it, and we're going to do it with the support of the people. We have $25 coming from Kristen, and I Thank you, Comrade Kristen. We have Johan. Thank you, Johan, for $10. Yes, Comrade Johan. And can anyone match Johan, please? And thank you. We really greatly appreciate it. Betty Soto has a report. Look what just happened to a young Black brother, Bethune-Cookman student arrested after police find AR-15 rifle in his car. His car was not on campus. It was off campus, not far from the school. I'm guessing because he was following law of not having firearms on campus, so he parked off campus. And, now this brother is arrested. And the thing about this white kid is that a lot of people knew he had weapons. They knew he was, always talking.
He left comments on YouTube saying that on YouTube and Instagram saying that he's going to be the best school shooter in history, that what he wants for Christmas is to be a school shooter. And he was actually reported, I believe it was 54 times. 54 times he was reported to the school campus police, and also the FBI were made aware of this guy, whatever like that. And, he was not investigated. Nobody knocked on his door, none of that, none of that. But you have, a brother in Dallas, they knocked down his door and gassed the place and locked him up over a pistol. And
come on, Rakeem. Yeah, they did his door like Fred Hampton style, 4 o'clock in the morning, bust his door down. And,
children was there.
Yep. Now FBI labeled him as a Black identity extremist, and there is no bail for Black identity extremists.
He's facing 10 years. So yeah, the state knew exactly what this boy was going to do. But the state, the funny thing is, people are saying, but 54 times he was reported. Why didn't anything happen? Because the state is not there to stop that.
Nope.
The state is built to terrorize, imprison, and murder African and colonized people. Right. So the state is not built for that. You don't have a state that is built in the interest of children. Not even white children. You know what I mean? And people are saying, well, there was a handful of cops that were on the campus at the time and ran outside and just waited outside, and they could hear the shooting and the screaming inside, and they didn't go in. And people are like, well, what's wrong? Why didn't they go in? Because you got to break it down for you again. That's not what it's supposed to do. You know what I mean?
Exactly. All right, comrade. So let's see some more donations coming in. I see Evan Garner says, I can make a pledge of $20. All right, and we can get him on Friday. That's right on. Y'all can't.
He was on Snapchat with a firearm and cutting himself. Yeah.
That's what the white school shooter was doing. So I mean, that they knew what he was going to do. So Evan Garner says $20, and y'all can follow like Evan Garner too. He's giving a pledge. Even if you don't have it necessarily today, you can make a pledge, and don't worry, we'll follow up with you all to make sure that it gets in. And anything helps, comrades. $5, $10, whatever you can give. Slide a 5. Slide a 10, slide a 20. Ryan Brooks. Oh yeah, he asked a question earlier about what's the case with the 3 drowned Black girls, and I think if I'm correct, we either got Ali or KC in the comments who gave him a few articles to read, and they're going to be articles, that actually tell the truth of the story of the case, because any other articles that you read from the bourgeois colonial media will tell you all these horrible things about, why 3 teenage Black girls deserve to lose their lives. 2 15 and 1 16-year-old, and will never, didn't get to experience what being 15 and 16 was really like. And prior to that, we're living under hellish circumstances because of the conditions that were imposed upon them. You look at Kunde, who was working 2, damn near 3 jobs, riding the bus at 5 o'clock in the morning, having to take all of her kids to school, get them all ready for the day. I mean, that's not, white. That's not, that doesn't happen in white suburbia. That's not the life of white children, even going to Parkland, Florida, high school or whatever. That's not what they have to endure. These African teenage girls were catching hell before this happened to them. And, this is the case for all African children. Again, this is why we have to, support this campaign in whatever way we possibly can. Justice number 4, DominiqueBattle.com. All right, we need $35 to get halfway to our goal today. People, $31 for 31 days was very trendy. Hashtag $31 for 31 days. We can definitely make this happen. Again, these legal defense fund, unfortunately, especially for Africans, it's not a small fee. I mean, they charge you for every single thing for them to prove what we already know is true. We already know that these pigs are guilty for the murders of these 3 girls. And, we're going to win that in the streets, and we're going to win that in the courtroom. So, make sure you guys donate today. If you don't want to say how, you don't want to say that you're donating, you want to be anonymous, you don't want to let people know how much money you got, justice number 4, DominiqueBattle.com. I know people's taxes just came in. So, y'all, you got to invest in the future of African children. Invest in the future for African people, period. You have to do that by supporting this campaign. Renee Nassar says reparations at $10, donating, paying in reparations $10. So Uhuru Comrade Renee, thank you so much. Getting closer to our goal. We got $20 from Jawara Brown. Uhuru, right on. Uhuru. All right, so keep on keeping on. Everybody keep donating. Justice number 4, DominiqueBattle.com. And continue to support this. We got, Kota, 25. Uhuru Comrade, we got 25 from Kota. Let's keep going, y'all. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. We're going to support this campaign. We got any more questions, too, while we have Secretary General in our hands? While we have him still.
Just really want to say how excited I am about this, and I see that the live stream is growing more and more, and I'm seeing this trend of African people online really trying to struggle and find the way out of this muck. And I see that these videos of people praying, and they get 7,000 live views or some crazy stuff like that. And I saw this one person with their tarot card reading. And they got 10,000 views, and people asking questions. You gonna get this? This is gonna happen for you, and da da da. And it's people are just struggling to get out of this crap, and for somebody to sum this up. And the more and more people are coming to videos that are led by this movement, and especially African and colonized people coming, they're going to start seeing that no, we're not going to give you cards that are going to the random cards that are going to say something really vague, and you're going to feel something, and we're not going to shout in tongues and all this other kind of stuff. We are literally telling you this is the way and the path to gain freedom and liberation from all of these things, because it's not a tarot card reading that is going to get you out of the effects of gentrification. And it's not, speaking in tongues that are going to end, mass incarceration and, all these horrific things that are going on in our communities. It is organizations like this, organizations led by the African working class, organizations led by a young African working class woman that is doing amazing and profound things. So just really want to appreciate everyone. Betty Soto, we will win. Pinellas County Sheriff's Department is guilty of murder. We have to fight back. They have to stop killing our children. Touch one, touch all. Yes, and they have also, speaking of martyrs, the 3 boys. That Akile has actually met their parents. So can you talk some about that?
Yes, and this is why we have to get these killer pigs off the streets, because it'll happen over and over and over again. I mean, in 2016, they took 3 African teenage girls away from us. And then in 2017, they took 3 teenage boys. The youngest one was 14 years old. 14 years old. That's barely becoming a freshman in high school. And the same sheriff's department doing the same exact thing in the case of the 3 girls, doing an illegal chase in Florida. There's a no chase policy. They illegally chased these girls, and they illegally chased those boys and led them to their death. It was a fiery crash, one's with water and one's with fire, and Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, I'm pretty sure, can use all elements to murder African children at this point. And, this is why we have to get these murderous pigs off the street, because this will continue to happen to us. And I mean, we were, actually, was it the courthouse? I think it was courthouse we were at, because we were defending Dominique Battle's brother Isaiah Battle, who the state also has in their clutches. And we were defending Isaiah Battle, and the mother of the grandmother of one of the three boys was downstairs and, was just in tears. And one was so appreciative of somebody who was on her side, because this whole time, all she hears from the colonial media is, the slander against her grandson and against his friends. And she knows that it's not true. She knows it's absolutely not true. She raised those boys. She was around those boys all the time. She knows it's not true. She knows it's not the case. Those African boys did not deserve, the fate that, that they endured. And, so she was very appreciative of somebody who was there, who wasn't actually condemning her. And her grandson and her people, and that it was a community of people who actually came there to uplift her and raise her up. And, the fact that there was a real solid answer there, that we said, the court is not going to answer it. They're going to justify the villains every time. They're going to justify the police every time. They justified Howard Skaggs when he murdered Laborio Felton, who was 18-year-old African in 2002, by drowning him. And they justified it by calling it literally justifiable homicide. They made up a thing. They made up a term to justify killing an African. And so, of course, the state, in the case of the three boys, is going to do the same exact thing. They're going to justify themselves. They justify themselves in the three girls because the water was too dangerous. And now they're going to justify it then. And this justification is the fact that they stole a car. And apparently now cars are more important than the lives of African children. Though it takes the life of an African children to make the damn car, to get all the resources to put into the creation of the damn car. And when Africans die from taking back the resources that have been stolen from us, now the property is now worth more than the value of life of an African. But not for the African community. That mother, places value over her child than, more than a damn car. More than if she has one, shoot. If she has a damn car, if the mother had a car, if the kids could have a car at ages that white children get to have cars, then then African children wouldn't need to go out and take nothing, because it would already be there, because it's already theirs. And the fact of the matter is, if you got it in your community, if you are hoarding and sitting on a pile of resources, and at 15, 16 years old, as soon as you get that permit test, you can get a damn car, you best believe that the people you stole a car from is coming for their damn car. And but this is why this campaign is so crucial. Nobody is raising this question. Nobody is saying over and over again that the African working class is innocent, absolutely innocent. It can never be guilty under colonialism, ever. Can never be guilty under colonialism. Everything we experience, everything African, everything it is we do, every so-called crime we commit is all because of colonialism. All because of it. We believe that 100%. That's why we don't, when you go to court and they're trying to try Africans like they're trying to do me, when they do this kind of thing, with this whole court system is illegitimate. It's founded on the murder and genocide of indigenous people, the enslavement of African people. That's how you got a damn constitution. That's how you got the damn law. That's how you got the damn court system. That's why we know it doesn't work in our interest. It works for the interest of white power. And white power is what, was founded through the, enslavement, through genocide, all of these different things. So of course it's illegitimate. It can never judge an African. And you're going to judge an African based on the conditions you impose on us? Nonsense. It's craziness. So, that's the case of the three boys. And again, another set of African martyrs, potential revolutionaries that we could have had. And, just another example of why we have to continue to do what we do. Another example, because can't be no more weeping grandmothers, weeping mothers and fathers, weeping communities. Can't be no more of that. No more of that. We can't. We have to see a future of free African children. And, it has to end. And it ends as the moment we support a campaign that's fighting against all of that. And that is this campaign. That is the 3DBG campaign. So again, this is my last call for everyone before I go into announcements. Justice number 4, DominiqueBattle.com. Take this website. You can donate today. Take it and donate when you can. Friday's payday. I know for a lot of us, just drop it off then. I know people got their tax returns. Drop it off then. I believe in the people and being able to propel us to victory of this campaign. So I really want to salute all of you all for participating and watching. I want to appreciate one final time Secretary General Gazi Kodzo of the African Socialist Party. Yeah. Is there any last, anything you want to say before I?
No, I'm just so proud of you, Akile, and all the work that you and your campaign are doing, committee are doing, and continue to do. And even though we've both been in political life not so long, we've seen a lot of opportunist campaigns come and go, even around these girls. And it just says a lot about the African Socialist Party and about the African working class to speak about this campaign that will live on and fight on until our African children are free from this colonial terror. And just really excited about the event that's coming up that I'm sure you'll talk about later, and all the great work that y'all are doing tirelessly all of the time. And Kunde, is in this movement, and of course she's hurting, but she's here and she's organized and working with us. And I know that the other mothers, are going through like a lot, and it gives them, such hope and a peace of mind to know that this campaign, this organization, continues the fight for them in their name and how much they appreciate. And I feel like, this title of the Martyrs' Day is so important to the entire African nation, redefining what martyrs are and defending all African people, and understanding that Africans murdered, any African dying under colonialism, colonialism is responsible for that murder. And people are like, well, what about Africans that die of old age or cancer, all these things? If you go and look at a map of, let's say, what is it? Life expectancy, world map. If you just go to that, okay? And they have these colors, and dark red is like, very short life expectancy, like around 50, 40, life expectancy range. And then light blues or light greens are like higher expectancy, like 90s, 80s, stuff like that. And when you look at the world map, you see Africa is deep red. You know what I mean? And that is a statement of the entire African nation, because whenever you go anywhere around the world and look at specific cities, you'll see that the deep red of life expectancy is the African people. So, and if you look at where all the wealth is being taken away from, which is Africa, and put into the white nations, then you understand that the reason why white people live long is because African people live short. It's because they're taking everything away from African people to have the ability to sustain and reproduce life for ourselves. So this does shorten our life expectancy. And then on top of that, you're pushing us into prisons. You're heightening everything. Our food is scarce or it's too expensive. Our landlords are mean to us. It's hard to even keep a job. All these kinds of things. We're fighting amongst each other, so we're dying early. They're putting HIV and AIDS and Ebola and sickle cell and all these things into our community, so we're dying on that. And it's just a continuation. All these different, sub economies, I guess you call it, whatever, that the government creates from, like sex work is putting us in dangerous places where we're being murdered and catching diseases, all these kinds of things, or the drug economy, we're being murdering each other. So it's like to say, when you look at it like that, we look at it in the real way. When you look at it really, yes, each and every African murdered or died that have died under imperialism, or died under colonialism, the responsibility of that death is colonialism. It's the alienation that has invaded. And I'm sure you're going deep in that, deep in the front.
I think that was pretty deep. It's pretty deep. So, colonialism, white power has blood on its hands. And again, going back to what I said about every so-called crime, ever committed, whatever thing that you could say an African did wrong under this social system is because of colonialism. And that's the same for the cause of death. cause of death is colonialism. Even when you so-called die of natural causes, even that's a different reality for African people than it is for white people. It's two different realities. Long life expectancy for white people is a different life expectancy for Africans, because we die at a much, so, you know, we make it to 60 and God, we've made it, you know, because that's longer than usual, but that's not longer compared to what white people get life expectancies are. And, you know, what you said about, you look at the world map and you see that all the places where that were once dying, Europe, once dying, half the population gone from disease, you know, couldn't produce any life or land or farming, nothing, God, nothing, had nothing. And then now you see that that's the longest life expectancy on the planet Earth, and Africa has the least, and Africa has the most abundance of resources on the planet Earth. Everywhere you look, and you look at where people are getting their stuff from, and you see where white power got all their cell phones and their technology and stuff, and you see Africa with all the resources, but Africa got the least life expectancy. That's not because Africans haven't. First of all, Africans are the first human beings on the planet. That doesn't make no sense. How we have short life expectancy?
Exactly.
I mean, you know, just scientifically, it doesn't make any sense. So, you know, and again, it's a material basis. It's a reality that we're living, not as we want to see it, but as it really is. And, you know, that is the case. All, you know, all Africans who are killed, we can push it back. I mean, we can say killed. We can say killed because that's what it is at the end of the day. You know, you break your back, you work all your life, you succumb to alcohol because you got to get, you know, all of that. All of that is colonialism. So, but we put the onus on colonialism, we can fight it. We can fight it because we can't fight the other stuff. You know, we can't battle alcoholism without battling colonialism. Can't do it. It's impossible. Because you have to change the conditions for which alcoholism would even exist in the first place. You got to do that. That has to be the root of it. That has to be it. So again, so we're gonna have to go soon. 3 more minutes. Want to shout out to I think got Valerie. I think that's who that is. $28 pledge. All right. Oh yeah, for 28 days of this month. Yes, $28, 28 days this month. Shout out. Okay. Shout out to the month of African Martyrs Day. Go ahead, Valerie. And then we got Comrade Mads gave $50 as a stand of reparations and says in honor of African Martyrs Day. Uhuru, uhuru, uhuru. Thank you, comrades. Again, Justice number 4, DominiqueBattle.com. Thank you, Secretary General. Thank you. Again, that link is in the comments. Y'all go to it. Y'all visit it later on in life. Y'all share it with your mamas, your daddies, everybody you can. Make sure that they donate too. Say, hey, this is what I'm a part of. This is what I'm supporting. If you love me, you know, support this. I just wanted to announce the next 3DBG event. Really excited about it. And shout out to Kyle for this dang good graphic right here. It is the, hold on. Okay, there you go. It's the Fight Till Justice is Won. That's the theme. Justice for the 3 Drowned Black Girls 2-year anniversary benefit concerts. Hooroo. So it's going to be really exciting. It's a free event with performances, vendors, food, and a vigil. Saturday, March 31st. It'll be the exact 2-year anniversary since the murder of the girls. Starts at 3 to 7 p.m. It's going to be taking place at the Uhuru House. We got this big old space, this big old field where vending can happen. We got a stage for performers. It's going to be amazing. Before I close out, I want to give a shout out to my committee, you know, who is located in various parts of the U.S., but we all, you know, work together to be able to pull these things together. So shout out to Comrade Casey out in St. Louis, Dexter, Boston, Walia in New Jersey, and and now Deb in California. Yes, Uhuru. So shout out to you, comrades. And again, shout out to everyone who's building for this concert. It's gonna be so amazing. It's gonna be beautiful. We got you know, one of Dominique's friends working on the committee. So it's going to be really powerful. We're going to really bring the friends and families into this building for this event. So you guys, if you're in St. Pete, come, check it out. And stay on the 3DBG Facebook page for more information. If you're located in St. Pete and you want to learn how you want to participate in building the event or even performing or being a vendor, you can contact info@black96.org. Diakesi Lungisani is over performances, so y'all make sure y'all holla at him. All right, and I think that is it, comrades. This has been the 5th episode webinar for the 3DBG committee. It was really powerful. I really appreciate everybody, all the presentations. And next month, we will not be having a webinar because of the March 31st event, but check us out in April because we will be coming back with our 6th episode. Okay, comrades. All right, you guys have a wonderful evening, and long live the African martyr, Uhuru.